Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Good stuff. Testing the microphone. This is testing the microphone. Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar tonight. We're just going to get going in a couple of minutes. We're waiting on a few more people right now, but yeah, please do take part in the chat. A couple of members of the team are there to kind of help ask and answer some questions, and we'll get going very shortly. Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks for coming tonight to the webinar on how to build your own startup while keeping your corporate job. I'm your host, Phil Wilkinson, and I am a serial entrepreneur and angel investor in a few businesses. And hopefully tonight it'll be around 30 minutes long. There'll be there's some chat, as you can see, kind of under the webinar, and we'll have time, hopefully, some questions afterwards. Hopefully we're not too distracted by the glorious sun here in London, or at least the hot evening. But we'll get through this, and yeah, hopefully we'll have a really good debate afterwards. So just want to get cracking quickly and just say what we're doing here and who are the serial entrepreneurs that you've seen on the webinar. So always wanted to put together a team of entrepreneurs who've been successful and find a way to kind of extract their knowledge. I mean, these people who have a lot to share, but they don't go off writing books and blogs. And we wanted to find a way where we could get all this knowledge together and make it into some really great online course material that we could then share and provide advice on building and selling businesses. So we've got some really great people here. People here in the UK, so like Keith Abel, who was founder of Abel & Cole, the organic veg delivery. Graham Bosher, who is a co-founder of Love Film, the DVD rental company, and Graze, the subscription snacks. And Simon Murdoch, who sort of started Amazon here in the UK and is now a venture partner and investor at Episode One. And these people have great stories to tell, and we just put it all together, and hopefully you'll start to see some of the material come out. Most of them had really big corporate jobs before jumping into their own business, so you'll hopefully find their stories pretty inspiring. I think it's probably good, rather than delving into kind of all the things I've been involved with, I think specifically related to this webinar is my story and kind of how I got going. So I've built a few businesses over the years, and I do a lot of investment now in kind of other founders and other businesses. My story, though, started, I was an IT consultant at a company called Perot Systems, and working in Nottingham at a big client called East Midlands Electricity, and really just spent my days going around the company looking for things that they needed software written for, things that we could kind of try and make their day a bit better and automate some of the tasks they had to do. Kind of long story short, I kind of got bored after a while. There wasn't a lot of work to do. I felt like I wasn't really making a difference and doing anything of meaning. So I did what everybody should do when they're bored, is just went and did lots of online shopping. So I'm spending most of my days going from store to store, looking at CDs and books. And after a while, when you've done enough of that, I realized that the prices were different between them. It's not that one retailer had particularly cheaper prices than the other all the time. The products were always different prices depending on where you went. So I kind of just thought, there must be an easier way to automate this, so it saves a lot of time when trying to compare and find the best prices. Now, it wasn't really a great programmer, so I had to get a bus to work every day with screaming school kids in the background. And I decided I was going to buy some programming books and read up. So every day to work, I had an hour there and an hour back. I would sit in the bus, put my headphones on, and just start reading a chapter of the book. I'd get home at the end of the day, have some tea, and then just start programming and try to build this system that found the best prices. To cut a long story short, I did that. People started using it, and I realized actually I was quite passionate about it, and decided to hand my notice in and give it a go. And there's more about kind of how I did that particular process in a few slides later on. But I think kind of my story is probably the typical of what people want to do when they become entrepreneurs and how they leave their jobs. So we want to kind of get going with the first topic here, really, which is kind of the foundation of everything before you start on a big adventure. It is the mindset and the motivation of an entrepreneur. If we get this right, it kind of leads to everything. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs try and run in to building something without having this in mind and getting it right. And it all starts really with the why, right? Why do you want to start your own business? What's the particular reason that kind of makes you feel like this is the thing to do? And if we go through each of these items here briefly, number one is really the freedom, right? If you feel that, being able to control your own destiny and you create your own job, potentially your own hours, but really it's your own strategy and you're guiding the direction of where you go and spend your time and what you actually build and do day to day. You set your own terms. That freedom is a real big driver. Secondly, it's passion. And I don't think you can kind of do any of these in isolation, but you've got to really feel like strongly enough that you want to do it. either like something as a problem that you see constantly and you just want to get it fixed, or a particular subject or topic that you think, I'd just love to get up every morning and do this, and I want to find a way where I can do it. That passion will drive you through all the good and bad times, because starting a business is pretty tough, and there's some great rewards, but you've really got to kind of have that passion to see you through those bad times. Thirdly, money, right? I mean, it's a decent reason. It can't exist in isolation from freedom and passion, but often a big reason for starting your business is a financial cushion. You don't want to worry about money in the future. So you think if the business can be really successful, it can provide an income, and perhaps you could even be lucky and sell it at one point, and it'll provide the financial resources you need. But I would say, like doing a music group, the chances of getting a lot of money are not always very high. So as long as you have the passion and you want to do something for the freedom, they're the real drivers. And if you get those right, the money generally will flow afterwards. And the last point here is really the not sure reason. It's the reasons where people go, well, I like the sound of having my own business. It seems like the hot thing to do now, right? It's quite cool to be an entrepreneur. And I don't really like my job, so I might as well go and do something else. I mean, these aren't really reasons. These are just you not being happy in a current situation. It's not a real driver for building something. So, if you're feeling like that at any point, really go back to the top three here of, if you've got a good reason on freedom, passion, and money, and be honest with yourself, really understand your motivation. They're the good reasons. So a little bit of a secret here. This is what we call the cash flow quadrant, which is in a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I really recommend you go and buy this, because this literally changed my life and how I thought about how you create wealth and freedom in this world. And just starting from the left and kind of going around in I think it's anti-clockwise direction. If you look, you've got employee here, right? So this is most people. You have a job, you work, and you get paid for the time you put into something. And the amount of work you do determines how much money you get. You get promoted, you do more work, you make more money. Obviously, you get taxed and you spend it, but this is the traditional cycle that we mostly find ourselves in. If you move around to the self-employed section, it's kind of the same. I think some people confuse self-employed with being a business owner, but you're doing the same thing. You're getting paid for your time. It just happens that you might be, as a very basic example, say a plumber, where you're working, and if you don't work, you don't get paid, right? So you are working for the money. And if you move around to investor or making investments, this is a great example of where money is actually working for you for a change. You put it into stocks and shares. Some people invest in businesses or into properties where they take on the rental income. The key thing is they could actually go and do something else, or maybe they go on holiday for 3 months, and the money's still working. It's still generating income. They're not trading their time for the cash. And if you follow the quadrant around to business owner, this is in a way is creating a system or a machine where you're getting other people to believe in the vision and what you're doing, and then they're working for you in order to make the money. And again, it's like an investor. You're not transferring your own time into money. You're making something where you could, in a way, do yourself out of a job, which is the ultimate thing of success. If you could walk away from your business and they don't need you, then the machine of the business entity is generating revenue for you, and you can take that out as dividends at some point in the future, and again potentially sell it. So this is a really interesting way of why you might want to start your own business. And the journey normally you'll see is people go from employee often to business owner, and later, if the business is successful, they'll kind of move into investor. And the distinction is, on the left hand side, you work for the money. Money is your boss. On the right hand side, money works for you. You're the boss. So yeah, there's a big debate about whether you're born to be an entrepreneur or whether you can learn this in a class. And like most things, the answer is neither and both. Right? It's something that's not innate. We all have to learn it. And unlike if anyone has children, they pick up walking and eating and breathing. We have a lot of things like language where we just start to innately pick these things up. But no one wakes up one day and goes, oh, I can build a business. Everyone has to learn this. But it does help to have some traits. When we have here, the passion, the grit, and the determination, these are things that you have, and they're actually things you can improve on. But that perseverance to keep going when everybody tells you that it's not working, or it's not a good idea, or where things aren't quite going your way, if you've got that grit and that big vision and passion we talked about earlier, it will see you through. And that is the number one reason why some entrepreneurs are successful and some people aren't. Thirdly here, always be learning and seeking experience and help. You'd be surprised like how many of us serial entrepreneurs constantly have coaches and mentors and learn from each other. It's that kind of growth mindset that is, we're never going to be able to know everything, but we can learn and we can get other people to advise and help us. And there's nothing we shouldn't be able to absorb. So always be learning is a great trait. And really, the best way to learn to be an entrepreneur is to actually be one, right? You basically get to a point where you go, okay, I'm just going to throw myself into the deep end here. You really do learn on the job. And that's why, you can have some great frameworks like this, some courses now that we've never really had in the past. It kind of helps to guide you and steer you. But fundamentally, you're there on the ground doing it. And that really is the best learning. And finally here, you're never ready, right? There's always a reason why you can think of not starting your business. There's never a perfect time. And there's always another month, another year, another, you're just about to go on holiday, or there's a new car you wanted to build. Sorry, buy, you could build them too. There's never a perfect time, right? And I think just accepting that and going, we'll make the preparations, but at some point you just have to make the leap. So in the second part here, we really kind of want to understand this whole concept of risk and reward. It's a common misconception that all entrepreneurs are avid risk takers and gamblers, and it is completely false. Everybody I know in that vein is very good at managing their risk reward. And this is kind of how it looks. I want to give you an example of how the mind of an entrepreneur would traditionally work here. So it's a careful balance of risk and reward. And what you're trying to do is minimize the downside to what you're about to do and maximize the upside. So on the left-hand side, you can see some things that would be kind of risks that you would perceive. So things like personal finances. I've got a family to support, or I don't have enough savings in the bank. How am I going to support myself while I go off and build something? My career. If I leave my career now, how am I going to get back into it? How will people perceive me, my friends and family and peers? What if I fail, right? What if I kind of feel bored and lonely? I'm used to a big company where there's lots of people here. And these are all, very valid reasons. And what you do is you kind of go and try and minimize these. So the personal finances is, well, to be honest, you kind of start putting savings aside. You kind of look at making sacrifices. I mean, when I did this, I kind of, I would put 6 months away and say, I've got at least 6 months that I can last here. And it does mean sometimes, maybe you're not going on that holiday, or maybe not buying those things you had in mind, maybe saving a bit more or taking the bus. And, hopefully it doesn't sound very preacher-like, but it's a way of just saying, I need to control the finances and put some money aside if I'm really, really passionate about it. Without going into each of these others, the failure aspect of it, what you'll find is actually building a business is all about little mini failures, and they're really learnings at the end of the day. And I think our culture has changed a lot now, where failure isn't a bad thing anymore. And how people perceive you. People actually perceive entrepreneurship in a more positive way. So you can go through each of these and just say, actually, okay, I can minimize these, and they're probably not as bad as I thought they are. What's the worst that could happen? And on the right-hand side, you look at the upside and go, well, what if this is just a really great idea, and the opportunity is now, and if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And I'm going to be able to build a team, and perhaps someone gives me the money, and I'm really going to enjoy doing it, and I'm going to learn a lot. And when you trade them off and you go, well, if that's the best that could happen, and really I've kind of minimized all this downside, that whole risk reward model there is now for me to go, well, you know what? This kind of makes a lot more sense. I feel better. We'll come to some examples in a bit, actually. Just a quick slide here around the startup path. this is a traditional journey that you might see in a business, right? So blue is like positive, red is negative, and it's a constant battle of ups and downs, which is again where this perseverance comes in. So, quickly at the left-hand side, you'll say, I've got a great idea. It's all exciting. It's all new. Lots of things to explore and find out. Then you have to go through all the planning bit, which is a bit of a downer when you have to get a bit methodical. Then you launch it and people start to use it. You start to get customers and get another high. Then maybe you find that the customers aren't using it as much as you want. Maybe they're not coming back. So you enter this whole kind of chasm here of testing, trying, improving things, tweaking things. Perhaps it's a new sales strategy or new branding, or just, some of the team wasn't working out. And eventually, when you kind of get through that, and that can be quite long, you end up at a point where you go, something just clicks. And really, things start to take off. You've hit that magic formula, and you ride in building a team. Business gets bigger over a period of time, and you enter what you originally started to do in the first place, which was to build something you love and enjoy. Some quick examples. I mean, I said myself, we mentioned this earlier, but I kind of saved up enough money for 6 months. And when I'm looking at my downside going, well, look, at least I've got that period of time, which I think is all I need to know whether this is a thing or not. And look, I'm going to learn about programming. I'm going to be able to build things. And I'm going to learn a bit about running a business because I'm going to actually do it. And if this doesn't work out, I'll just go and apply for a job somewhere. Right? I'm going to apply for a job as a programmer, perhaps. And I'll enjoy the journey. And at least I won't have any regrets. I mean, for everyone, it's a different individual thing. But for me, this was always the big driver, which is I don't want any regrets. I don't want to look back on my life and go, I didn't give that a go. And that's been the big thing for me personally. Kian Farugi, who made Batika and sold that to as an online jewelry marketplace, he came from the financial world, and he said, accepting failure and a mistake was the hardest thing for me when I first started out as an entrepreneur. I came from an industry, which is the financial sector, where everything was so formulaic that you just couldn't make a mistake. It wasn't the accepted thing. So for him, it was really liberating that you could have these little failures while doing the business. Things don't go always to plan. And he would learn from that and find that actually it was okay to fail. It's not a bad thing. So this is like probably the most common thing, right? Which is like how you kind of come up with the idea in the first place for a business, perhaps how you generate one, or you might have one, and how you validate it. So the first thing is really don't start until you have something, right? It's some idea you want to kind of pursue. The thing you always avoid is just jumping and going, I don't have anything, I'll figure something out in the next few months. Go away and think until you have something that you want to kind of validate, or some idea that you want to pursue. So we'll go through what we can do if you have no idea, some sort of tips here, and in a bit we'll talk about kind of how you validate an idea you might already have. So in this case, if you don't have an idea yet, there's quite a good framework. And firstly, it would be, why should your business exist, right? Why should something exist? If you think of creating something people really love and then tell them all about it, which is fundamentally the secret of business, right? It sounds so obvious, but it's amazing how many people forget this when they get going. If you create something people really, really want, then they will use it and you'll have a business, right? Why should it exist? Why should people work for you and join you as a team? Really answer that question to yourself. And the second point here is a lot of it I did at a company I worked for, which was called ENTREPRENEURST, where we would take pre-idea people and without any money and guide them from an idea into a funded business. And the common thing here was, what's your edge, right? What do you know more about than anyone else that kind of gives you a competitive advantage? So perhaps you're already in a particular sector and you've had a lot of experience there. Perhaps you've got a particular skill set which you're way ahead of other people maybe in that field. It could be anything really. It's for you. What is your edge? What gives you something that no one else could? So that if you were to pitch this idea alongside two other teams who are trying to do it, why would you be unique? Why would someone believe in yours more than theirs, right? That really think about that edge. 3, awareness, right? So this is really just again a mindset thing. And once you start doing it, you'll find it really hard to stop. But it's to look at any situation you encounter and just think, how can this be improved, right? What's going on here? What's the issue that people aren't realizing that if I pay attention to it and be aware of it, it will happen. And a really interesting exercise, if you do something like go to a supermarket and look at the checkout process, and watch someone with, in a non kind of scary way, just watch someone from how they choose their shopping, and then how they go about queuing, how they pay, and how they go through that whole experience from beginning to end. Or a car hire company when you're at an airport. How does that whole process work? When you start really thinking about what's behind what you see in your everyday world, you'll start to think to yourself, okay, there's an issue here that I think can be looked at. And fourthly, new experiences. There's a lot of psychology around this about the brain works best when it's out of its routine, when it's not in a comfort zone. When you're doing a routine, whether that's the same kind of journey, or you're going to a coffee bar, or you're doing it in your house, it's very easy for the brain to kind of get a bit, I guess, sort of stale, right? It's good to change the scenery, because when you go and do something different, maybe you're trying to learn something different, or you're just going to a new city, or perhaps you're just going somewhere you don't normally go, your mind starts to work harder and it starts to be more creative. So we always say, if you're looking for an idea, the more new experiences you have, the more chance something just triggers, that fire kicks in. And lastly, as well, there's a bit, we'll come to some examples here, which is inspiration versus generation. So sometimes people use a logical evaluation of ideas, right? So sometimes ideas are quite cheap. You can throw a lot out there, and a lot of our serial entrepreneurs had gone through a kind of a ranking exercise to find out which ones make the sense in terms of time and money and so forth. And a lot of it's really just inspiration, that by having that awareness and having that mindset that you're on the lookout for something, an external event when you're exploring can actually trigger the idea. So just jumping back quickly to Kian here, the reason he started Batika, which was his online jewelry marketplace, was he was on holiday in the Medina quarter of Marrakesh, exploring a souk, which is like the marketplace. And there was a local woman who was selling jewelry there. And he started talking to her, and he really liked the pieces she had. And she told him that she had to get there and walk 3 days back and forth to her village to run the stall. So she would go and sell her goods, and then when she ran out, she would come back and do the whole thing again. And he just thought, that just can't be right. There's so many talented people across the globe that probably don't get access to great distribution. And he got home, started to delve into and research it, and Batika, his business, his marketplace, came out. James Fellows, one of our other serial entrepreneurs, he knew he wanted to get into business. All those reasons we mentioned before. He was passionate about doing something for the freedom and the flexibility. And he spent months working through ideas. And really, he was just at a party one night. He got talking to another guest called Mike, who turned out to be a real top surgeon in the NHS, the UK healthcare system. And James just said to him, look, what challenges do you face in your line of work? If you could change anything, what would it be? And Mike just said how frustrated he was with doctors having to transcribe all their medical notes, and it'd take ages for them to come back from the pool of transcribing secretaries they had there. And when there wasn't enough work, they were just paying for these people to sit around. And James realized that actually, when he went away and did his research, there were hundreds of these transcribers who were all trained in the medical field, who didn't work full-time for the hospitals, but just wanted the flexibility of working remotely and when they wanted to. So he built a company exactly for that, where doctors would transcribe it, goes into an online system, and the transcribers would log in and out whenever they needed some work and get paid for it. So his company, Dictate, was born, just really from keeping an open mind when he went to a party. And here, once you've got an idea, or if you already have one, there's a few things to think about here when you validate it. So research everything, which basically means Google the beep out of everything. So this is, don't be afraid to look into stuff and keep an open mind, but you're trying to find out who else is doing it, look at the opportunity, the trends, what the market size is. You'll find so much that you can look at, and don't be afraid if there's competition. That's always a good thing, actually. Market size and trends, for example, lots of British libraries, UK libraries actually have the surveys where you can access for free, and get lots of market reports. So Google and research everything. 2, people in the sector. You'd be surprised how open people are to talking to you. If you're looking at a particular vertical or sector, then LinkedIn, I find, is a really good way for this. You can go out there, find people just contact them and say, look, I'm thinking about this idea of doing a business. I'd got a few questions. I'd love to kind of just ask if you maybe we could have a phone call. And people love talking about their stuff, and you can find out very quickly whether your idea is something that has legs in that space. And apart from people in the sector, the third point here is talking to customers. That we always kind of call this customer development, and it could be things such as like making a survey about what kind of things you want to ask them, right? Is this a problem for you? How do you currently solve that problem? If we had this kind of service, do you think that would be something that helped solve it? You've asked very much open-ended questions, and you're really trying to work out, have I found a problem there that needs solving, and could people really become interested in it? A lot of people actually go to coffee shops, and they sit down with people and go, look, if I wanted to ask you about this, I'll buy you a coffee. Perhaps we can go and talk through it. Number 4, don't hide it. Ideas are really cheap. And if you think someone can easily copy what you're doing, then you're doing the wrong thing, right? Now, of course, there are incremental opportunities where it's not necessarily a brand new idea, but you're going to do something a bit better. But execution is everything in here. And you get more value from communicating your ideas and talking to people about it and asking them to challenge your preconceptions than you are keeping it in stealth and hiding it. So really just don't be afraid to communicate it. 5th here, test and iterate, right? The internet's great for this. Never before we've been able to quickly and cheaply test if someone really likes your proposition. And not the best looking slide, I'm afraid, but to give you an idea, there's something called a landing page, right? And it's really just a one-page website which kind of takes your idea and it gets you to think about it first of all. So, what's my headline here? If I had to sell this in a couple of words, what would I write? How would I attract people's attention? And you send people there, whoever you tell about your idea, or, if you want someone to come and look at it, you send them the link to the page and you see if they convert, right? Do they click the button? Do they want more information and give you an email? Or similar what you did with the webinar here. And it's really just testing a bit of your proposition. Is there any interest at all in what you're doing? And if you look at the top, this with Google AdWords, where you can actually spend money on a few ads. I mean, it has to be £50, £100. You can try out lots of advert text, your hook, your headline, send them to the website and see if people convert. See if it's something that there's a real interest in driving. And we could spend hours and hours on this kind of material, but unfortunately we don't have that much time. But just to say that how you can kind of communicate what you're doing and how you can validate your idea, there is many ways, and these are just a few examples. So briefly, just before we get to the slide on kind of actions you could take right now, we're actually doing a bit of customer development ourselves, right? So kind of eating our own dog food, as it were. So we're creating a series of kind of online video courses about people who are in businesses already, like corporate jobs, and want to make the leap and start something up. We've got the concept of the serial entrepreneurs, people who have been there and done it and have been hugely successful, who are writing the content. And we're going to have communities where people on the courses can come together and be mentored a bit by the entrepreneurs and the people who write the courses. So you can get kind of real-time feedback on things you're doing. And for us, this is a series of courses we were thinking of building. So I've got one request for you, right? Which is email me here at philip@theserialentrepreneurs.co and just answer a couple of questions, right? So what is your current situation, your job title, your industry? How long have you been there? And what are you struggling with right now? Where are you in that process? About all the things we've talked about, from kind of the mindset about whether you want to do it, to whether you have an idea or not, how you're maybe got some concerns about risks, rewards, whatever it is. How can we specifically help with your goals? What if you could get free coaching? What would that include? So please do email me or just put some opinions down. And I'm also very happy to call you and have a chat. I mean, one thing I find with customer development is just calling people. We talked about the coffee shop, but I'd love to kind of hear more about your journeys. And for us, anyway, it's very valuable because we can find out whether we're doing the right thing here and if this is something that people want to hear more of. So lastly, before we just jump into questions, so things you can do right now, right? So number 1, understand your why, right? We talked about it earlier. So be honest with yourself. Really, why do you want to start a business? Is it for the right reasons? Go through that as an exercise. 2, start if the financial side of it, if you're not lucky enough to have a bit of cash, start saving the cash and making a few sacrifices. You're gonna have to make a lot of sacrifice on the way in a business, and sometimes starting that process now is a good thing. Your businesses will take a lot of time. They'll probably eat into some of your social life. They'll you won't be able to afford things initially that you normally do now. It's a complete change to the corporate side of things, and it doesn't last forever. But really, if you want to give yourself that cushion and help mitigate that financial risk, now's the time to start putting it aside and going, well, how much do I need to last 6, 7 months, 7 months? And how can I get that to one side? 3, go through that risk reward exercise. So remember, minimize the risks and maximize the upside, the reward. Write down everything you think is holding you back, and then look through that and go, well, actually, how can I make that better? And then on the reward side, really go, okay, well, if this all works out, what am I going to get out of it? And if it doesn't work out, what have I learned from it? 4, develop your idea theory, as we call it. Try and disprove it. Think to yourself, what am I trying to do with the business? And from all the research I'm doing and all the people I'm speaking to, can I come up with a really valid reason why this is not going to work? And if you're constantly trying to disprove it, after a while, you'll find out that you really can't disprove it if you're being honest. And it just seems like now that's the thing to start putting your attention into. And finally, make a list of potential co-founders. It is a very hard thing to do on your own. There's so much to do now, and things move so quickly, and it can be boring and lonely. And I wrote that in the risks in one of the earlier slides. And a way to mitigate that is to actually have a co-founder. And again, we could spend hours on how to find a co-founder, but one tip is, if you're in a business, if you're in a job already, start looking around at some of the colleagues and the people you're doing projects with and think, are any of them people that I would really like to work with? If they got something that we get on well together, they've got skills that could be good here, go and grab a coffee with them. Just explain what you're thinking and see if you can get them interested in it. Normally, the best co-founders are people you've worked with in some capacity before. It's not really necessarily your friends and family unless you've worked together with them. So even though you probably get on with those people, it has to be in a working environment that you've done things together. And that's it. So yeah, we've got the questions here. I mean, thank you very much for listening and spending time here. Please do email me, and obviously we have a couple of people from the team here in the questions. So if anyone's got any questions, please fire away. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I mean, I know it's late and it's we probably want to go and have a beer. Please, look at that email address. It's philip@theserialentrepreneurs.co. If you've got any questions at all, please answer these questions here if you can. But if you've got anything that you think I can help with, or you want me to give you a call, we can have a chat through things, then please do so. Let me just double check. Hold on, have we got any? Okay, great. All right, well, we'll end it there. But again, thanks very much for your time, and hope to see you again.